Greetings friends, I'm Baron Multi, here to show you a game by the name of Mini Metro. This came out in 2015 and it was made by an indie studio from New Zealand with the whimsical name of Dinosaur Polo Club. It's a fairly simple management game about organizing the metro systems of various cities around the world. And it's also the proof that simple has to mean neither easy nor boring. For the most part, it's a fairly laid-back, casual, chill game, but after a little while it gets surprisingly brutal very fast. You'll be able to see how and why in a few moments, but the first thing you'll note is the absurd amount of cities you can select. Pretty much any metropolis famous for its metro system you'll be able to find here, and then some more. But now it's time to jump in and make the citizens of Chicago proud. So the whole concept is very intuitive. The shapes on the map are metro stations and you have to link them together to create a line, which are the colored dots at the bottom of the screen. So in Chicago you start with 3 possible lines, red, orange and yellow. A line can either go from point A to point B like the one I've made, in which case your locomotive will just go back and forth, or you can make them loop on themselves so that their locomotives will always go the same way, so clockwise or counterclockwise. As time goes on, more and more stations begin to appear on the map, and more passengers begin to line up at them. Passengers are the small black icons next to the stations. The symbol they have represents the station where they want to go. Now, as far as I'm aware, passengers in this game are not very picky. They will get off at the first station of their symbol, no matter where it is. So for example, a triangle passenger will always get off at the first triangle stop it encounters. It doesn't care about going to a specific triangle station. As the game progresses, stations can also change symbols and evolve. And trust me, that can be a lot more disruptive than it sounds. Say you have a very carefully balanced line and suddenly one of its stations changes to a unique symbol. That line will very soon get overwhelmed by an influx of new passengers from other lines. Now, I talked all over it, but you can see on the top right of the screen there's a clock indicating the day and time. One of those unique symbols just appeared on the map. But yes, the time is important because every week you get some rewards. You will always get a new locomotive and then you will get a binary choice between 2 upgrades. A few seconds ago, if you noticed, I had a choice between a new line or 2 new bridges. I chose the latter because I'm quite horrible at managing my bridges correctly. The bridges, which can also be tunnels depending on the map, are represented by the icon to the right of your lines at the bottom of the screen. To absolutely nobody's surprise, they allow your lines to cross bodies of water. I found that managing them properly is always one of the biggest challenges for me. Some maps are almost built around efficient tunnel placement, and I universally perform horribly in them. By the way, for the purpose of this video, I put the game on double speed, but the default speed is half of that, and you can also pause whenever you want so you can manage your lines without having to worry too much about doing it quickly. Week 3, so I have a new locomotive and a choice between a new line or an interchange. An interchange basically boosts a single station. It means more passengers can line up at them without being angry and can embark and disembark much faster than in other stations. Now, when I mention passengers being angry, that is the losing condition of this game. When there are too many passengers waiting at a station, they start getting impatient. That starts a little countdown represented by a little circle that will slowly fill up, and if a single station circle fills up all the way, it's game over. This can happen way more quickly than you think. In my experience, your metro going from running smoothly to going completely awry can take only a few moments. Typically one of 2 things happens. Either one of your line gets too overstretched, and carriages can only carry 6 passengers each, so they have to skip stations at some point because they get full. So either that, or one of your stations gets way too overcrowded because the way you placed your lines means that too many passengers get dropped off there. So there's much more to this game than it appears at first glance. And while the game is very simple and intuitive for the most part, I think it could still benefit from a tutorial. Here's a new week, by the way, with a new kind of asset I've yet to show you, the carriage. You can add it to an existing locomotive to double its passenger capacity. I enjoy this game a great deal, but I'm not a big fan of how it gives very little player training and information about its mechanics. Granted, the basics are easily grasped and you don't need any kind of advanced mechanic to progress through the game by any means, but I don't think it's an excuse for these mechanics to be only discoverable through trial and error. I mean, maybe I'm just stupid, that's entirely possible, but it took me quite a while to realize that a passenger could go to any station of its symbol. And despite having played this game for maybe, I don't know, 10 hours before this video, it was only while recording the footage that I discovered that carriages slow down slightly when they cross over another line. It might not be a big game changer, but you know, it's the kind of information that would be nice to have made available. Maybe through a help section in the menus, or like some games do, you could have some pop-ups that explain more obscure aspects of the game and maybe a little box that you can check that says "Never show me again." That's a good formula. But I'm afraid there's none of that here. And there's me pausing the game because things are very quickly going out of hand, and experience has taught me that problems need to be addressed as soon as they come up. To get back to my previous point, on the other hand, I understand that this game was made with cleanliness and minimalism in mind. So from that point of view, I can't really fault it for not clubbing you over the head with information and mechanics. So it's at best a nitpick, and one that doesn't get in the way of this game's catharsis. It's also available on mobile, by the way, and I think it's a great fit for it. If you find yourself outside the house with 10 minutes to kill, you can use that time to mess up your favorite city's public transport infrastructure. The game I'm showing you will be quite short because I went for the fast forward option, but a typical game would take me, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes, which I found to be a pretty good length for it. It was long enough to get me invested, but not so long that it overstayed its welcome or made it frustrating to lose. Now you can see that things are starting to get out of hand for me. My red line is getting way overstretched and I need to do something about it. So I extend the yellow line southwest to try to take some stress off the red one, but I'm afraid I've pretty much reached the point from which it's only going downhill. I'm already struggling with keeping all those plates in the air and new stations are popping up left and right. And to add to the headache, my problems are no longer restricted to the red lines. You can see some yellow and orange stations are also getting way overcrowded. So at this point it's just a matter of time, really. I try to salvage what I can by adding a new line, but at this point it's pretty clear I'm only delaying the inevitable. Remember me saying this game could go south surprisingly quickly? Yeah, it's a good demonstration of that phenomenon in action. And I know I'm crap at video games and you're great, but it's going to happen sooner or later to you too, Mr. Genius. A typical game stays easy for just long enough for you to grow confident in your own ability to manage the whole thing. And then the game throws a period of massive growth your way and you just can't handle it. And there isn't much else to show you really. Every single map has its own layout and special difficulties, and many maps are unlocked by getting a certain score on other maps, so there's an incentive to play different ones. And it's game over for me. If I wanted to continue, I could do so in endless or creative mode. There's an option to do so after finishing a game. I'll explain the different modes, but it means that if you grew attached to your little Metro network, you need not worry about having your little heart broken. So I just played in normal. There's also extreme, which is like normal, except tracks are permanent, which is just brutal. Endless, it's like normal, but you can't fail. And creative, which is a bit like endless, but you can also move stations around. So you can customize the whole level rather than just the lines if you so desire. I just unlocked Budapest by getting a score of over 500 on Chicago, so I'm gonna play a little bit of it while I finish up. Oh, I should mention there's a dark mode, so if you thought it was a bit too aggressive on the eye, you can breathe a sigh of relief. So what's my final assessment of Mini Metro? It's a game that focuses on a single concept, keeps it simple and polishes it to a shine. And as a result, there may not be much of it, but they squeeze as much mileage as they possibly could out of what there is. That's a philosophy I can get behind, and the fact that I want to play more of it speaks for itself. So there you have it, ladies and gents, Mini Metro. A nice way to unwind after a tedious commute on public transport. You can snag it on Steam and other PC platforms for $9.99 USD or your regional equivalent, or you can get it on mobile for even cheaper if you want to carry it in your pocket. Thank you for watching. This has been Baron Multi. Remember, you're always welcome in my barony, where I hope to see you next time.